matter was scheduled for a hearing, and we were able to come to an agreement at the end of last week. And that agreement is before you today for your consideration. This is a Category C unprofessional conduct complaint, docket number PRS 2020-51M, involving Aaron Cochran. At the time of the violation, Mr. Cochran was the chief of Hardwood Police Department, and the underlying incident occurred in the spring of 2021, going into the fall of 2021. The Category C, excuse me, let me back up a moment. Category C conduct unprofessional violation is any allegation of misconduct pertaining to council processes or operations, and in this specific case, including subsection G, an intentional failure to conduct a valid investigation or file a report as required by the subchapter. In this matter, the state is alleging that Mr. Cochran engaged in Category C conduct by virtue of Mr. Cochran attempting to cover up the misconduct of a subordinate by failing to conduct a prompt and thorough investigation, and by doing so, invalidating the subsequent internal investigation. More specifically, as laid out in the stipulation, there was an incident in May of 2021 that was brought to his attention about the mishandling of evidence by a subordinate. He stated months later that he completed the investigation at the time in May, but what came out after the internal investigation was that he wrote his report involving the incident 5 months after, and he only did so after the town manager of Hardwick and the state's attorney of Caledonia County had made inquiries about the internal investigation that he had purportedly conducted in May. Mr. Cochran had stated that he had completed the investigation, even though evidence was found that he had not accessed the case file until about 5 months after the incident, had not interviewed any witnesses. And by the time he did create his report, certain witnesses were no longer available to interview. The substandard investigation by Mr. Cochran and the conclusion that his ultimate conclusion that his subordinate was exonerated due to a policy failure indicate an attempt to cover up and or minimize his subordinate's misconduct. Through this stipulated agreement, Mr. Cochran has agreed that if the facts were presented to the council, that the facts would support a Category C unprofessional conduct complaint for, again, not completing a prompt and thorough investigation. The sanction that Mr. Cochran has agreed to, that the parties have agreed to, is a written warning. This written warning will reside in Mr. Cochran's file. It's also a public document. In this written warning, there is required training. It's important to note that Mr. Cochran has since retired from law enforcement. So the way the written warning is laid out is that if he should return to law enforcement, he would be required to complete 4 hours of internal affairs investigation training, as well as 2 hours of ethics training. This training would need to be in person and would be in addition to any of his 30 hours of mandatory annual training. Lastly, important to note that the outcome that the parties have presented to you today was the recommendation for how to handle this matter by the Professional Regulation Subcommittee. So I ask you to consider the agreement before you, and if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
You gotta come off, Mike. I guess my question is, this is for our council. Do we need to go into executive session to discuss this personnel matter, or is this open question?
Would the questions be directed to whom?
I expect Kim.
Then that
in
would be
regard to-
here in this open forum.
Okay, then we will stay open unless we need to go further.
The only one question I have about the proposed stipulation, it doesn't detail the training that Attorney McManus covered in some detail of what that training would be, 4 hours internal affairs. I don't think the stipulation actually specifies the training, and I'm not sure if it needs to. It just says training.
That is accurate. And I see that. So I have the written warning that Mr. Cochran has agreed to. And in there, the training is specified in the written warning. The stipulation refers to the required training in the written warning. But I defer to you, Attorney Lawrence, if you think that needs to be reworded.
I mean, maybe you could just say that the terms of the written warning are incorporated by reference, but does the council need to approve that, the language of the written warning, or is the stipulation enough? And once that's approved, as a result of that, the written warning goes into effect and the terms of the written warning that go with it.
Counsel?
Well, I think in this matter, that's again, I need to defer to Attorney Lawrence to answer that question.
I haven't seen it. That's the problem. I haven't seen the extra. There's an extra document that's apparently titled written warning that details the training that's required. So if we have that, probably makes this a lot easier.
Let me share my screen with everyone, and I apologize that this did not go out. Can you see that, Attorney Lawrence?
Yes.
Yes,
That's
it's
a
on the
memo.
screen, yes.
Great. If everyone could review that while Attorney Lawrence is reading.
Yeah, I see that's consistent with what you just verbally briefed the council on.
Just give me 1 minute so I could read it. That would be great.
Okay. Give a little bit more to read that. Are we okay to discuss?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we could propose and that the minutes reflect that the council was briefed and did see the written warning, and it will be subsequently distributed to the council members in addition to the other documents that were prior to this meeting. And I do realize this all happened very quickly at the very end of the week, so it's not a matter of slipping through the cracks from a while ago. This was a quick transition, if you will. Would the council be amenable to having the minutes reflect that we reviewed this document in addition to the others previously distributed? I'm seeing a thumbs up there. Do we need a motion to do that? I'd like to formally have it on the record. Yeah, on the minutes. That we would accept, I would accept a motion that that the council accepts the written document sent to. I got to figure out a way to word this. How could we word it? That we'd accept the document prepared by Councilor McManus and presented to the respondent and reviewed by the council at this meeting.
So moved.
Okay, we have a movement. Do we have a second to that?
I can second.
Okay, we'll second that. In favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
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 I'm seeing some hands and some ayes. Does that sound like a majority? I couldn't see all the hands. It sounded like a majority with the hands and the voices. So I will conclude that the motion passed, and that review has been completed. Are there any further questions on the agreement? Yeah, there was just a text Karen Transgard Scott presented. I was maybe feeling I didn't hear enough voices, but keeping in mind the Professional Regulation Committee is not able to vote in these meetings, and that's a substantial number of the attendees here. So, thank you for your silence. Okay, no further questions? Are we ready to act on the acceptance of the stipulation agreement? I would entertain Mark, Sheriff Anderson, please.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I guess I just pose a question and a thought. The question is the internals affairs training. To my knowledge, Vermont has not offered such a training, and the only available courses are generally out of state. What is the view of what that curriculum is? Who's offering it? When will it be available?
I think that's an answer Director Brickell might be able to provide.
That would go back to, in my mind, the Professional Regulation Subcommittee, if there was such a request for that training, to determine which would be the best training module for that. There are several different internal affairs investigations available, even online, not from the academy itself. So we could certainly determine what that would be if there was a request for such training.
Okay. A note from Chief Frank that I think Roger Williams, the FBI, there's ample there are other options out there for that training. I guess the question would be, is this something that we feel, given the case that occurred here, that it's something that should be developed at the academy? Is it something? I'm seeing a big thumbs up from Chief Frank, so I think we'll put that on the agenda in the curriculum review and redesign to develop a Vermont specific internal affairs investigations. You know, the existence of a case suggests that it's something that we need to look at, and that may be a training gap that we have within the academy. So we'll so note that for the record and in future consideration for sure. If there are no other observations and questions or concerns, then I'm ready to move to action on this matter. If I could get a motion to do so. We have a motion to accept the stipulation agreement in this manner. I don't know quite how the wording would go here, but Sheriff Anderson, you're usually pretty good at these.
I'll make a motion that we accept the stipulation agreement as recommended.
Do we have a second to that motion? Keeping in mind professional regulation. Okay, I heard a second. Amanda, thank you. Now calling the question. All those in favor accepting the motion as presented, signify by saying aye and raising your hands.
Aye.
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 Okay, I see some hands going up, etc. Any opposed? Signify the same. And by Robert's Rules of Orders, I'll call for abstentions, but it's inferred that if somebody didn't vote, they've abstained. So if anybody wants to go on record as abstention, do so now. That'll include the Professional Regulation Committee. Okay, it appears that we have approved the stipulation agreement as presented. Counselor McManus will follow the appropriate notification, etc. procedures. And I believe that ends the scheduled agenda item for today. Are there any comments or notifications or announcements that folks would like to make while we're here, while we have the forum? I have none other than to thank everybody for your continued good work. I'm learning more every week. Um, I've had the opportunity to reach out to some more folks on a number of matters and look forward to continuing to do that. Just a reminder that we have the graduation of the class coming up on, I don't know the exact date. I do know it's the day before Thanksgiving. Um, I intend to be there. I also, as you know from our last meeting, I held that meeting from the academy and was able to spend the day at the academy, observe some training, um, and meet with a number of folks. Again, I'd encourage folks, if you have the opportunity to do that, to visit, and something that maybe we'll talk about in the future. I'm thinking about, just having some conversations with the executive director and some thoughts about what a strategic planning for the academy will look like, and of course the council's involvement. So there'll be more to follow on that, but looking forward to continuing those discussions. I have no further items, and seeing none other, I think you could probably appreciate getting back to your day. I didn't realize yesterday was a holiday, which is why people weren't responding to me. On a number of fronts, the banks, everything was closed. Um, just forgot about it. The next meeting is scheduled for November 5. We're looking forward to that. And other than that, have a good day. Give you a few hours back. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So
That
moved.
was it. Daniel. Okay. Sheriff Anderson and Daniel, I'll take that hand movement as a second to that motion. And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, there you go. We got at least one eye. I'm going to consider that
Aye.
passed by consensus. Okay. Okay, the meeting is now officially adjourned, and we will prepare for the next upcoming regularly scheduled meeting in November. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.